Good evening. Praise God as we are going live this evening on Words for the Soul. We're on week 168 and want to give you an opportunity to go ahead and like, tag, and share. I'm getting ready to, yeah, we should be live. I'm checking to make sure it's on my phone. We're live on my side. So let's see.
Yep, we're live now.
We're live now?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure we were live.
We live. live.
We are live. Words for the Soul come to enhance, to let you know that you love, that you're chosen, that God has a plan and a purpose for your life, that the things that He has for you are available. And we just come to give words of encouragement today. We're so excited with the guests that we have. We have a phenomenal topic that we have been touching on for the last couple of weeks, and we're just continuing that. It's called Stretched But Not Broken. Unforgiveness. I had turned, yes. So at this time, we're going to introduce our guests and then we're going to start our conversation. So, Bishop, we're going to have you introduce yourself and then we're going to have Dr. Doshi Piper introduce herself.
Okay. I am Bishop Trevor Alexander.
Thank you.
I'm a man of few words, so tonight you might be inspired by my profoundness, because I am profound.
Why should we all laugh? Well,
But
beautiful.
I'm so profound, you don't know I'm profound until I tell you. That's how profound I am.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
My husband, for 36 years, and we've been dating over 39, close to 40. Yeah, 40. Beautiful. And Dr. Doshi Piper, one of our pastors at True Vine, share a little bit about yourself.
Hello everyone. I am Doshi Piper, Dr. Doshi Piper. I'm an associate pastor of education at True Vine Church. I am also an associate professor of criminal justice at the University of the Incarnate Word, and I am really happy to be here.
All right. We had a wonderful discussion this morning doing Sunday school.
Yes.
And
let's backtrack.
Okay.
So on the first Sundays,
okay,
we don't have a regular quote unquote Sunday school.
Mm-hmm.
We invite various personnel, disciples, to share on the theme, which the theme for this year is alignment.
Alignment.
And today we have a mother and daughter act,
Mm-hmm.
dynamic duo.
Yes, we did.
We had Jay, who was the daughter of Dr. Piper.
Uh-huh.
She came in and she did a phenomenal job.
Yes, she did.
Even though she was trying to get that sympathy folk with crutches. And she let out, and then Dr. Piper came with her aligning, and she talked about forgiveness and attitudes towards forgiveness and so forth. And we said, wow, that's what we're talking about today. And we invited her to be our guest because she's not on our flyer.
Correct.
So I didn't want people to think we just kind of we didn't forget her. She came in alignment.
Yes. Came in alignment. Yeah. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. So before we go into our first question, we've been talking about the power of tension, but not broken, by Dr. Chad. And so one of the quotes that's in his book, it says, maturity is achieved when a person accepts life as full of tension. Because a lot of people don't like to deal with tension. A lot of people don't like to have confrontation. But in doing so, you'll find yourself that you become stronger and wiser. And you find out more about yourself. So in talking about that, there is a scripture in Proverbs 27:17. And it says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And I'm going to ask you to give us an example of that. But before we do that, there is when we go into different avenues or different situations in our family and our jobs, how tension arrives. This is maybe one way that can help us when it talks about as iron sharpens iron. So as one person sharpens the other. So that is our first question. Who would like to go first?
Well, let me lead out, and then we'll open that to either you or Dr. Toshi.
Yeah.
As one who has worked with tools, and when you sharpen tools, you need something of a friction,
right,
to sharpen the edge. So when you talk about sharpening, as one person sharpens another person, I think of one of my friends, We were not friends initially in high school because he was a bit of a bully, and he just tried to bully me. I let him alone when he's bullying somebody else. But when he came at me, I stood my ground,
Okay.
right? And so, when you're younger and teenage, I think we were sophomores. Anyway, we chose the time and place for the fight,
Okay.
right? And then everybody and their mama, oh,
They showed up.
yeah,
They want to see the action.
yes, and
Hmm.
we had a time, man. And then he whooped me,
Mhm.
right? But we became close friends after that. It was
Then you
that,
stood up to him?
yeah, well, yeah, because he knew he had a harder time than he thought he should have, right? And he didn't want a second round, right?
Okay.
But it was that friction
Okay.
that caused a friendship. And that friendship lasts beyond graduation and so forth. Um, and then part of what Jimmy was struggling with, we didn't know at the time, was his sexuality. And he was a butcher, right?
Okay.
He was working in the butcher shop. Later, I'm not knocking this profession. He started doing hair.
Yeah.
He wanted to become a hairstylist. And we're like, hold on, Jimmy, how you go from butchering, animals to doing hairstylist? And that's when we found out that he was struggling with his sexuality. That's where the bully came from, the underroot stuff. But because we were friends, we were able to sit down and talk about that. So that friction led to a friendship.
It's in my thing.
Yeah, the friction led to a friendship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think she's trying to do something in the room.
Uh-huh.
So let me talk about as iron sharpens iron.
Mhm.
I know a lot of times as those where as teachers or when we're in school or being in ministry, when we have different trainings, um, just being taught the proper way to do things or making sure we're doing best practices or that we are performing things and doing things that we think that we're doing, but someone says, well, I see a better way of doing it.
Mhm.
And a lot of times when depends how that person comes at you to give you that correction or to give you that training, sometimes it doesn't feel like iron sharpening iron to make me better. Sometimes a person can come at a certain way where there is more of an attack and not of a sharpening. So
Well,
I
think
think
about a drill instructor.
yeah,
They don't have time to sit down and hold your hand and tell you why you got to do it. They come at you.
drill instructors do. But you know what?
Yeah.
When you were
It's
drill,
it's the approach, it's definitely.
Yeah.
I think
yeah,
it's definitely the approach. When you sign up for the military, you know that there's going to be some instruction there that in some situations that you may not necessarily, you wouldn't do it this way, you wouldn't otherwise learn or receive information this particular way. And so, I understand your analogy, Bishop, of like friction and tension, and the knocking away, um the edges, and the smoothing of, you need something rough to smooth out
Yeah.
correct.
the edges or to sharpen. And I think that common people, most people,
Come on.
don't invite that tension.
Right.
It's because of the tension that we
Yes.
grow and we evolve and we become, we transform in many ways.
Yes.
But it's not something that we necessarily invite into our lives, our spaces, because it does make us uncomfortable. And I think that when we can sit in and deal with the tension
Right.
and not run from it and grow from it, we I see that as iron sharpening iron, something rough or sharp, something sharpening something rough as well. I know that for me, when I hear the statement iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another, I think that it's, for me, it's getting different perspectives and point of views.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously I'm like you, I don't necessarily invite um conflict and tension, because some people are just confrontational,
Right.
and that's their way of like delivering information or getting their point across. and it's abrasive.
Right.
And I'm not necessarily offended by it. I don't run from it.
No, me neither.
I don't try to avoid it. I just, it's not my preference, if you understand what I'm
Right,
saying. I don't
right, right.
prefer it. Although I don't reject, and so even though it's not my preference, I don't reject it. I apply it to my life where it needs to be applied to. And I think that therein is the growth or the sharpening. I just know I don't prefer it, if that
Right.
makes sense.
And
And oh,
go ahead.
I had just noticed that Eddie Scribner is on. Good evening to Sister Irene and Vaughn and Minister Reed and Sean. Um, Eddie Scribner, he was our the coach. He has a boxing
Yes.
Hmm.
school,
Yeah.
and I thought about that when he came on. He would teach the boxers. I didn't go for boxing. I came for rehabilitation on my shoulder. But he teaches the boxers techniques to strengthen them, to sharpen their
Hmm.
skills, and do routines and different things to get them sharp, their timing and their execution. In doing so, does it hurt your body? Do you get tired? Do you feel exhausted and stretched? Yes. But through the exercises, through the drills, you find yourself that you're more precise in your precision. I don't know why I can't say that word today, but you're strengthening. You're strengthening. You get strengthening through the exercise that he gives you. So,
Absolutely.
as I heard, it's iron sharpening iron. We think about people that are doing things in education or just in our communication, but you can sharpen somebody with boxing and different things. It's iron
Hmm.
sharpening iron for those who are runners with the team, and they sharpen our skills and how to run and how to breathe. Because it's important. You think you're going to do a marathon, if you don't know how to breathe right, you're not going to make it. So the things that come to sharpen us, we have to embrace that, even if there's pain in it. And as we were
Yes.
talking about the military, no pain, no gain. They're good for saying that. Really good for saying that. However, in some aspects, it's really true.
Right.
True.
But Sly says that the former instructors we don't give we didn't give opportunities for reasons. We don't because we don't. We're on a strict time period, right?
Yeah.
You got to do X, Y, Z. This curriculum is laid out to the T.
Right.
There's very
And
limited.
and I think for military instruction, I mean, this is to save your life.
Right.
Right.
And so, you know, there are when we talk about growth and development
There you go.
and being better in certain areas, I am giving you this instruction because these are life-saving techniques that you need to know in order to survive and thrive, or not even thrive, just survive, just to
Yeah.
make sure you're alive.
Yeah, you can't
And you
survive
don't
in
have
that school
time
if
to
you give it
negotiate.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to embrace the process too.
You
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah, but the other part I like that Dr. Piper said was the sharpening of the mind. Right.
Oh, it does help.
Sometimes when you are opposed presented difference of opinion,
Okay.
right? It causes you to go deeper into study.
It
It
does. Good
sharpens the
dialogue.
mind. It causes dialogue. I remember in seminary um, when we had Dr. Father, oh Lord, Sherwood. That man spoke like 9 different languages, right? Hebrew, Italian, French, Greek, and all these other things. And when you asked the question, he would write the question down in English and break it down in Hebrew, break it down in Greek, and that man challenged even the question itself, caused you to think it sounded like an ordinary question. But when he got finished with that question, like, man, that's a deep question. And then his answer. And sometimes I didn't quite readily agree with his answer, but I didn't want to challenge him right there because I had to think about, hold up, let me process what I heard, process my thought process, how I'm going to ask the question.
That's a good thinker.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
But because I didn't, because he said something that I didn't quite agree, but because the way the question was posed,
Okay.
and the way he broke it down, like, well, okay, that was good, that's good. Now, how can I form my question to make it sound more intelligent?
Yeah.
But he sharpened me. He sharpened my approach, even in my theological background. He said, okay, that's one way of thinking. Let's give you another way. And that, so yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes the mind needs to be sharpened.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I think about, I'm glad that you said that, Bishop. And the reason why I said that is because, like, when I'm a community criminologist,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also a feminist criminologist, but particularly looking at things from like a community justice perspective as an approach or response to law violating behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and how can community respond to um, the needs, the issues, and so I have to consider other perspectives. I have to consider like people who believe in retribution. I have to
Right.
consider people who believe in rehabilitation. I have to consider folks who believe in detention. Like, I have to consider all of these
Yes.
various
Yes.
incapacitation. Like, I have to consider all of these things when I am making my case for a community or a restorative response to,
Mhm.
the law.
Right.
And why is this a necessary approach or response versus the way we've done things before, aside from they don't work? because
Yeah.
because if they did work,
Mhm.
then we wouldn't have the crime problems that we're having, and we wouldn't have the issues that people have when they leave institutions. And I'll say this about the military, and I'm not saying this to be derogatory towards the military or anything like that. And so I want to make sure I preference my statement with that. But there is when people are leaving the military, there's a transition process, there's a
Oh, yeah.
reentry process that people have to go through, because life outside of any institution, whether it's the military, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a prison or a jail, any type of institution,
Mhm.
living outside of these institutions is different.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, oh,
And you
yes.
have to be taught that process. And so, there's not going to be anyone to wake you up in the
Right.
morning when you don't show up for work.
Right.
You're going to have a no call, no show, no call, and probably won't have a job anymore. And so you need to develop good practices for going to bed and getting up so you can be where you need to be on time.
All
That,
right.
that
I
that's a
like that.
really good place there, Pastor Doshi, because
Mhm.
we have known people. I've never done a study, but I'm pretty sure the numbers are high.
Right.
Who spend 25, 30 years in the military. When they get out,
It's totally
within a
different.
year they pass.
Mhm.
That stress of not being able to be in that structured environment can challenge people.
Right.
And it's not always through suicide. It's just life a challenge them. Their heart attack. They develop all type of
Mhm.
illnesses and mental illness. It's just different. And you're right.
Yeah.
Um, they do it. The military is doing a better job now helping transitions. But when I got out, it was a pull.
Yeah.
You had to go through this thing of what they call it for 2 weeks, and it was basically helping you write a resume. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to know how to do that transition.
Yes.
Before we go on, I just want to do some shout outs. Rose, good to see you this evening. Brenda, Mother,
Gates on.
Mother Green Gate, thank you. Pastor Keeley, thank you for joining us. Dr. Keeley,
Mhm.
for joining us today. Um, we're talking about stretched and not broken. And then we're going to get into some unforgiveness.
Yeah.
Before we get down, I'm going to just read this thing on is the presence of tension isn't a flaw in you or a threat from others. It's not a problem to solve, but a strength to be used. When you develop this perspective and you encounter tension, you will be less confused and feel less guilty because you understand that tension isn't a result of your error or flaw. Because sometimes people think um, that there's something wrong with them because it has tension or something's going on. It has nothing to do with that. So,
And
as
they are healthy tensions.
and healthy tension is good. And some people in leadership should cause some healthy tension on the jobs and in the church. And in because you know what, as you talk, it helps with great dialogue. It challenges you to get better, makes you be prepared. Because some people like to come and not be prepared. And you need to know somebody has studied and prepped and they're ready. So as we go on into our next question, as we talk about unforgiveness, which refers to being unwilling to forgive people for things they do wrong.
Mm.
It can also describe a situation or environment that does not allow for mistakes or weaknesses. There's a lot of different things that go on with that. There's a psychologist generally define forgiveness as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings or resentment. Here it was the thing is conscious or vengeance toward a person or group who have harmed you, regardless of whether you actually deserve your forgiveness. Because sometimes people really don't, but you have to choose. So
Hmm.
we're going to go to our question. And if you're those who are on and you have something you want to ask in the chat, feel free to do so.
You got Gallivanters on, Chief Gallivanter.
All right, Chief Gallivanter, good to see you
Yeah.
on tonight.
For
He
those who
should be back soon.
hey,
Summer's wrapping up. He should be back soon.
Pastor Doshi, he has to go to the newcomers class when he comes back.
Okay.
So,
Absolutely.
how do we process through forgiving those who have hurt me deeply? How do we process that? Let's talk on that.
You know, overseer, if I could tackle this
Yes,
first.
go for it.
And I think for me, because the way I live my life, I make sure that I am not, my behavior is not harmful.
I hear you.
I make sure that whatever I am, my interactions with people, whatever I am putting out with everybody except for Jade, because that's my child and I have to redirect her. So she may feel like um, what I'm saying is harsh or unfair or, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So aside from her, because she's subjective, but my dealings with other people,
All
I
right.
make sure that I deal with people with compassion, with kindness, with integrity, with all of these things. And so I don't feel like anything, but I do understand that I'm not everybody's preference, cup of tea style,
All right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So with saying that, I understand that I'm not for everybody.
Okay.
So I know that if somebody has an issue with me, it is not because of something that I have done to them. If you understand what I'm
Okay. I
saying,
hear what you're saying.
it may be because of the way I am in the world.
All
It
right.
may be because of who I am in the
Mhm.
world. And that is deeper than me.
I hear what you're saying.
So, like, that's what we have to process. So when people have an issue with me because of who I am in the world or how I am in the world, and they act on that or react on that, and I am hurt by their behavior, I have to go through, for me it's a process.
Uh huh.
And so part of this process is, number one, I need to reflect on my role in this.
Okay.
And once I do that, and that doesn't take very long, right? That's not a long process. It could be a day, it could be hours, it could be minutes,
Okay.
depending on the severity of the hurt. And after I reflect on my role in this, I think it's time for a dialogue, which could be tension
Yeah.
between
True.
a
Yeah.
person
Mhm. Right.
who who either hurt me or who feel like I harmed them.
Okay.
And depending on the relationship, depending on much how important that relationship is to me,
All right.
that determines the length of time. That determines how long it takes. Because some conversations, some dialogues, let's just have them and get them over with,
Yeah.
so that
Yes.
we can move on with whatever it is that we need to move on with and to. Especially like if it's on the workplace,
Yes.
or if it's like in my home that I live in with my parent or my child. Like some of these things we have to talk about kind of quickly because we want to resolve the issue to move on. When it comes to individuals who I don't have interactions with on a regular basis or a daily basis, then that process may be a little bit longer.
All right.
It may be a little bit longer. And so I don't have oh 2 days, 25 minutes. I don't have that kind of timeline for working through my process for forgiveness. Oh, and
Okay.
let me say this because I think that I talked about it depends on a relationship,
Right.
and the quality of
That
the
relationship.
relationship. If it's someone who, like, I love dearly or deeply, and that hurt is deep,
All right.
then it may take a while.
Right.
It may take a while because what I'm realizing, and what I said about recognizing that is not necessarily what I did or what I said, but it's who I am in the world and how I am in the world. And that takes longer for that individual to process through than for me to process through. Like, I can recognize if someone tells me, you frank, you direct, you don't, you just say what comes to the top of your head. And I need to process things a little bit. I don't work like that. I don't operate like that, right?
Right.
And so then I asked him, well, how would you like for me to address you, or to approach you, or to correct you, or redirect you? Those kind of conversations are more easy to have, opposed to, if you're a sibling and we have a close relationship, and something I said or something I did offended you, and now you have a problem with me.
Right.
Well, we got to talk about it, because
Right.
we can't move on. My process of forgiveness, I can't move on from the hurt unless we've had a dialogue about it, and I know that it's not going to happen again.
Right.
That's me.
Yeah.
Right. But I think I'm going to piggyback.
Mhm.
Okay.
The younger me didn't really care.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. I
I
can agree
didn't.
with that.
Mhm.
I was immature. If I hurt your feelings, oh well. Right.
Mhm.
But as I matured in Christ
Mhm.
and then called into ministry, there is a model now,
Mhm.
right? Because once in ministry, I am representing the Lord.
Right.
Right. So I have to be very careful what I model,
Correct.
right?
Mhm.
If I wasn't in Christ and I wasn't in ministry, I can flip. I don't
Yeah.
care about you,
Mhm.
right? Now I have a responsibility
Responsibility.
and an accountability.
Right.
So I don't want to harm anybody because me harming them can prevent their salvation,
Absolutely.
right? So now I'm with Dr. Piper. Once I know I harm somebody,
Mhm.
I'm ready to go and sit down and talk to you
Mhm.
and try to figure out what is it I said did
Uh-huh.
that harmed you, because my intent was never to harm anybody.
Right.
But that's my intent. But maybe I did harm you
Mhm.
by what I said, how I did. And sometimes it's a misunderstanding. Here's a
Correct.
quick one. I am preoccupied with something,
Mhm.
right? You walk in the room, I don't acknowledge you.
Mhm.
Now you think I got something against you.
Mhm.
No, I got nothing against you.
Just
I
like-
just was, my mind was someplace else.
Right.
Okay, now we bring it back to the table. We got that straight. But when I am deeply hurt, it's because the person hurt me I deeply care about.
Absolutely.
Right? So if I don't have daily interaction with you, I'm not so easy to be hurt.
Mhm.
Right? I'm developing this Teflon.
Okay.
Stuff rolled off of me. But
Okay.
when I have relationship with people
Mhm.
and they hurt me, now I'm also good to let you know, hey, I need to talk to you. Let me cool down for a moment.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I could come back. Or hey, when's the best time for I'm gonna get it right.
Yeah.
I will reach out to you. That's me. But I think far too many of us who are in ministry hold grudges.
Right.
Right. And we need to learn to let that go. So
Absolutely.
we need to fight. And I agree with you 100%. What role did I play? Right. And to keep from putting on the victim role.
Mhm.
Sometimes we have a role.
Yeah.
Sometimes we were a part of this, whatever that is, right? And so unforgiveness in us is more than just personal.
Right.
Because other people are watching. I think, Pastor, those you said something today. I
I
don't
was
remember
gonna
you said
Mhm.
Jay was watching.
Yeah. I wanted to
Right?
go.
Jay
I was
watched
gonna
it.
touch that.
Oh
And
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So other people are watching how you handle situations. So it's more than just us that is dealing with that. There is what I call the two-prong attack. Is the immediate persons
Yeah,
and
no circle.
those on the periphery, right?
Yeah.
And those on the periphery.
See?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got
Periphery, you said it
hey,
correctly.
that's right.
Mhm.
That's looking at us.
Take
They're
notes.
taking notes, right?
Because you're modeling.
Right. And so the next time you get up to preach on forgiveness or talk about that, they're like, Reverend, uh, that's not what you did on this day.
Mm-hmm.
And now you left there trying to justify, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I go back to this, and this is one of there's two things that I call my favorite scriptures. One of those is when Jesus is on the cross, and he says, Father, forgive them,
But
for
they
they
don't
know
know.
not what they do. I've added it like the Alexander version.
Mhm.
Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Because if Trevor shows up, he's gonna mess it up.
And Bishop, I'm sorry, Overseer. I know you got to
No,
respond,
I
but I
wait
have
till
to
you
say
finish. I
this.
got you after that.
I have to say this. So one thing, and so I talked about reflecting on my behavior, my role, and what did I do to cause the harm. Immediately, initially, or immediately, like I don't have an issue with apologizing.
Me neither.
I am quick to apologize because I know that I know, like Bishop said, there's something I could have done or not done
Right.
that could have offended someone. And because like I'm busy and I'm focused on this or focused on that, what I said didn't come across the way that I intended it to. And so I don't have a problem acknowledging the harm that I caused
Right. Okay.
and truly apologizing and making amends.
Right.
That's for me.
Yeah.
You can't be a community criminologist if you don't believe in amends, because
And
that's
it's
part
a
of community
fairness.
justice.
Yes. Yeah. That's a
You
good point.
can't be in ministry
And
if you
holding
don't
grudges.
believe in amends.
Yes. And you
Reconciliation.
and you have to practice what you preach. I remember I went through a time. I'm going to say 2 points. Sean had made a statement question in here. Where did it come from? A lot of times when you growing up, you see your parents modeling things. You
Mm-hmm.
see if parents are holding grudges, how they forgive their husband or their spouse or different ones. So if, a lot of times you model if it's easy to you to forgive. If you never saw forgiveness in your house, it's hard to forgive later when you're older. So a lot of that modeling comes from our parents, comes from our history, comes from the traumas that we may have had or we may experience. But the thing about it, as you talked about maturing, I remember I got hurt really bad because I was bullied with by somebody I used to work with.
Mm, mm,
Oh,
mm.
I said I forgave them, but I felt it whenever I saw that person or heard that name. I would revisit that again. It was not until I truly forgave them and when God had me even to go and to sow into them to let them
Cash app.
know I need to sow into you. I need to release something. I didn't say that, but I would just, but you're doing some good things, but the way they do things were not totally appropriate. But God said I needed to release them. Now, did it take me some time in a process? Yes, I forgave them then, but I remember that hurt. So you remember that hurt. And just because you forgive somebody, they don't have to be your best friend again. And I think
Absolutely.
people think that just because I forgive you, hey, you know what? I see how you treat me. So, I respect you. However, you're not in my close circle
Right.
anymore.
Michelangelo said, I might forget what you said, I might forget what you did, I won't forget how you made me feel.
Yes.
And that's the truth,
Absolutely. And
right?
and people think that because the relationship has changed
Yes.
because of whatever that I'm gonna call it grievance was,
Mm-hmm.
that you haven't forgiven them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No, I have forgiven them. I just am not going to put myself in a
There you
situation
go. There you go. Mm-hmm.
to go through that again with that particular person. That's like on a job. I'm thinking about people on my job, and I know it's a whole bunch of people on my job that are either watching this or
Right.
will watch this. And so I'm very
Yes.
conscious about what I am about to say. So if somebody on my job, and I'm talking about like a a colleague, I'm not
Yes.
talking about a support staff like an admin or somebody in the registrar's office or the financial aid office, or these um auxiliary offices that support the work that we do as educators at the university. But I'm talking about someone that is either a professor or a dean or provost or vice president, like professor and up. If we have conflicts
Uh-huh.
or an issue, if you accuse me of doing something, or if there's a grievance there,
All
either
right.
I have against you or you have against me, we're gonna resolve. I'm going to ensure that it gets resolved.
Right.
But I will not put myself in that situation again with you, because I had on a T-shirt the other week, that's when we did the Nehemiah project, that said half hood, half holy,
Okay.
Yeah.
because I am half hood, half holy. And so I'm like Bishop when it comes to you know, Father, forgive them, for they not know not what they do. Because if Trevor comes up, and so Father, forgive me, because I may not know what I've done, and so I'm quick to apologize. Because if this situation happens again, it's not gonna be the same. And I just say that because I know, like, I am very conscious of how I am in the world,
Mm-hmm.
because I know we have to be as Black people, we have to be as women, we have to be as ministers, we just have to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know these things, and I don't ever want, first of all, I don't want to ever like stop someone from getting to Christ. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Or getting what they need from the kingdom, because I know that I am a representative of the
Yeah.
Yes.
kingdom, first and foremost. And number two, in my humanity,
All right.
in my humanity, I may not deal with this appropriately, because the human in me wants to say, "Girl, you ain't did nothing wrong." Like Bishop say, "Move on. Let's go on to the next thing." But the God in me says, "No, you got to make this right,
Yes. Yes.
regardless if it's your fault or whatever the case may be. Make it right."
Let me hit it, because I think
Okay.
this is a good topic, right?
Yeah.
Let me hit from two points.
Okay.
Back with Dr. Doshi was talking about.
Uh-huh.
And you might hear me say Dr. Pastor. She's one of the same. She's the Reverend Doctor.
Yes.
The
The
Reverend
Reverend Doctor. Yes.
Um, I had a situation several years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, when Tasha was in school, and she was challenged with something that I didn't feel that was just.
Correct.
So I took it to somebody in positions of power,
Correct.
to show that there was the policy was not fair across the board.
Correct.
What I was confronted with was a justification of a policy that didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I said to her, I came to you because you advocate for students.
Correct.
What I heard you today say was defending the policy that hurt students. Now, you can't be both.
Right.
And so, yes, she said, then she told me I need to divorce myself from the student, which was my daughter. I said, I'm not just advocating for my daughter. I'm advocating for future students and current students. Because once you fix it here, it fixes across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, long story short, I walked out of that office with not having much justification. A few weeks later, she came up to me. She said, I fixed that for you. I said, no, you didn't fix it for me. You fixed it for future students and current students. I was just advocating.
Yeah.
I was advocating for students because the policy was not fair.
And
right?
it's important to advocate for people.
Right.
It
And
really
so
is.
sometimes, as when you're advocating for others, this is where I'm going with this.
Mhm.
You have to be able to take on the challenges of
Okay.
advocating.
Yeah.
Right? because
Yeah.
they will come at you,
Oh yeah.
right? Even though it's not you directly.
Yeah.
So as an advocate, in prayer partners and
Yeah.
prayer warriors, stuff come at you.
Yeah. That's good.
Second point. Um, so I just want to put it out there.
Okay.
I am now moving into a process that God has me in. I'm gonna just call it the discovery of self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what I'm trying to do now is see where I harmed
Right.
people. And to my surprise, I have harmed some people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna do with me and my family, my daughters, right? I called a listening session, and this is what I'm saying, a listening session. And I asked them questions where I harmed them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they started telling me specific things.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord told me, don't you defend it.
Right.
Don't you try to justify it. Listen.
Listen.
And I listened to them. And I've still got to come back and do part two.
Mhm.
But I'm processing everything they said. Now, my daughters are older now, right?
Right.
They're not teenagers. So our responsibility as roles are not the same as when they were growing up. But now that I'm older and they're older, I'm trying to move into this area God is moving me into. My village is helping me process this. I'm not doing this by myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes when you realize you hurt people
Mm-hmm.
that you love and care for dearly, that leaves a wound in your heart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so this thing of being the tension that we have,
Right.
that was for me right now in this process is a healthy tension.
Yeah.
Because I'm now examining myself,
Right.
my role, and how I could have done things better. And it's just been it's been a painful process, but my God, I'm the growth that I'm experiencing from
Mm-hmm.
this, it's been tremendous.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as you were talking, I just typed in there the power of listening.
Mhm.
It truly
Right.
makes a difference. Sister Gigi, thank you for joining. Joanna, thank you for joining. Hope you're feeling better.
Marlene Johnson's on the line.
Yeah.
Marlene.
Mother Liz, thank you for joining us
Mama
tonight.
Liz, yes.
Go ahead and like, tag, and share if you had not. We are still talking about stretched but not broken and unforgiveness.
Let me just add this caveat.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who just heard what I said and you want to go into a listening session, please do not do this without I'm calling it your village, because you will be hit between the eyes and you didn't see it coming, and you need your village to help you to walk through this thing.
Right. So.
Oh yeah, and I Bishop, I totally agree. And when you have conversations with people about how you are in the world and how that impacts them, especially when you are fathering and husbanding, shall I say?
I like that.
Um, Sometimes it's the truth of the fact of the matter is,
Yeah.
or the truth of the matter is, how I thought I was presenting and what I thought I was doing to discipline you or to help you grow or to support you was more harming than helpful.
Right.
Just because of the way people receive
Yeah.
information. And I think that, for me, that's been important, especially because, I'm a single parent.
Yes.
I'm doing this by myself when it comes to Jada. I have support. I have my mother that's here with us, and that she does what she does, and she supports and she helps. She assists. But at the end of the day, like, I'm responsible
Right.
for Jade and and how she turns out in the
Yes.
world.
Yes, ma'am.
and so there's a lot of things that I say and a lot of things that I do, and that's why I excluded her from the list of people who may have an offense with me.
Right.
Because she might be upset because I said, no, you can't go to Barnes and Nobles with your friends or to the movies or to whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she may have an issue with me because of that. And like, we deal with that when we deal with that. But as far as like my interactions with people, and that's why I preference what I said, because if you are non-confrontational,
Yeah.
and I believe in, like, confrontation. I don't think confrontation has to be unhealthy or
It should be
harmful. I believe,
healthy. I'm straightforward too, so I understand that.
yeah, let's address, let's deal with
Yes.
this and let's move
There you
on.
go.
Like, we
There
got
you
too
go.
many things to work on to be
Yes.
tiptoeing around an issue. Like that's my
Yeah.
perspective, right? But some people, they just non-confrontational.
Right.
And that makes them uncomfortable, that I want to come on, let's talk about this. What's the problem?
Right. Right.
You know what? Mother Crockett, she's gone to be with the Lord. I remember years ago, she taught me, Emma, people will have you walking a tightrope as far as
Yeah.
watching what you say, and they're free.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you be walking a tightrope and they're just be free doing what they're so
Yeah,
for me, you being confrontational, saying what needed to be said and not allowing things to fester becomes bitterness and resentment.
absolutely.
So there's a way that you can confront people, as you said, be healthy. That's what I saw. My mother was very straightforward.
Oh my gosh.
She didn't play, she didn't mix words. So in my environment growing up, I saw that. So when people say, "Well, I don't like to confront," well, I do, and it's okay to confront. And I believe if you do it with season,
Mm-hmm.
with salt, and you're helping you, in training they tell you, say it good and smash it in between, and
Mm-hmm.
put another good between it, so you make sure you're
Sandwich. The sandwich.
sandwich it in there. If we're, you can be help somebody to grow, show them what they did, but then help them to become better. Don't just feel like you're pulling somebody down and not building them back up. And I think
Absolutely.
sometimes in relationships, or when we are trying to get our point across, we tear people down so low, excuse me, that we don't have anything good that we see them do or help them to become. And we can't do that.
And that's because they didn't have the iron to sharpen them.
Yes.
They
There you
don't they
go.
didn't have they didn't have those examples. They don't have that training. They don't have that knowledge. They don't even have the language.
Right.
Yes.
All they know is, you did this and I didn't like that about you. Even
Right.
after, so I'm thinking about a situation where I apologized.
Mm-hmm.
I apologized. And the individual was still upset and still offended by
Well.
what I said, and did not, and told me, I don't accept your apology.
Well.
Yeah.
And I was okay with it. I said, that's on you.
It
There
is.
you go.
It
Because
is.
you've done
That
your
I've
part.
apologized. You say you didn't. My timing was bad. And I didn't offer any reason or explanation. I said, I sincerely apologize if what I said impacted you the way it impacted you. That was not my intention.
Right.
I love you. I care for you. And please know that what I said, I did not say in malice or any of those things.
Yeah.
And they straight up told me, this family member, I don't accept that. Okay. And I went on living my life because I did what I needed to do. And I
Yes.
knew that person, like, they didn't come to Jay's birthday party and they didn't do this and they didn't do that. And then months later, about 4 months later, they called me. No, they texted me, and I responded, and then they sent me something else, and I said, okay. And then they called me and we had a conversation. But what I saw them, overseer, because when you say, when you saw the person,
Mm-hmm.
like, it brought up these things, and I said, you
Mm-hmm.
know what, I'm not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll let you know.
I'm
Yeah.
not okay. However, this not the time to address this,
Right.
because it was a holiday and a bunch of family was around and all of those things. And like and so months passed, and then they text something, and I said, you know what, I'm not at a place where I can receive this,
Mm-hmm.
because I now I have an issue with you.
Yeah.
And however, I acknowledged the harm that my words caused at the time I spoke them.
Mm-hmm.
I sincerely apologized about what I said, and I meant what I said. I said, your response was your response.
Yeah.
And I accepted your response for what it was. And I don't have any unforgiveness in my heart against this particular family member. Our relationship will never be the same. I'm okay, and I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
They're not okay with the fact that our relationship will never be the same. That's for them we can have conversations about it, but whatever you had going on at that time, you wasn't equipped or prepared to deal with what it was. And I believe that you know, transferred on to me, and I'm okay with that.
All right.
But my life it's well.
All
Yes,
right.
it's well with my
It's well,
soul.
yeah, it is well with my soul. And I'm all right.
Let me
I
hit
don't
that.
know if they're okay,
That's okay.
but I can, and me, like, being in a relationship with God and doing my devotion time, when God puts it on my heart to
Heart.
pray for
Yeah,
this particular family member, these particular family members, I do.
that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
That,
I
that,
pray
that
for
doesn't
them.
stop.
I
Yeah.
wish them well. I don't call, I don't text, I don't do any of those things like I used to.
Hmm.
But I still love them. I still pray for them. I still care deeply for them.
For sure.
Our interaction is just not the same.
I can understand that. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was saving this for more words for wisdom, but I'm
Okay.
throwing it here now.
Go ahead.
I think one of the key that's missing now. This is again. It all depends on the relationship you have with this person.
Right.
So I'm just going to keep it with the intimate relationships
Okay.
when they're strained. One of the things that I found to be a moving, breaking down of barriers is called prayer.
Hmm.
Right. So when you and I have issues, really, you have more issues than me.
See, it's funny. He laughs more. Go ahead.
But we will pray,
Yeah, we will.
right?
Yeah.
And in prayer, it's
Yeah.
what I find. This is just us. Y'all, again, you don't be careful when you do this, but in prayer, because we are honestly trying to work this thing out.
Mhm.
In prayer, we get the answers.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
we hear what
Before we
others-
get off our knees, God has given us revelation
Mhm.
on how to approach this. And sometimes in prayer, I'm bearing my soul, because I've got new revelation. And so I don't mind praying when I'm trying to seek reconciliation,
Mhm.
because the goal is reconcile,
Yeah, restoring that relationship.
restoring it. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
before I want to touch this.
Mm.
Let me go to this question. I'm gonna pull it up real quick.
So we've been doing this thing.
What if we say we're going to let time go by and get ourselves together before forgiving someone,
Yeah.
and then that person passes away? That was a question we didn't have a
This
chance to
morning.
Yeah.
address.
Let me
So,
hit that first, and then
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
okay.
and I briefly mentioned it this morning. We have a live example of a young lady that when we were in military in Fort Leonard, Missouri. This was a situation. She was a young teenager, had on her way to church, had heard her mother had words.
Mhm.
Her mother was pregnant at the time.
Mhm.
It's a watch night service.
It was.
So she gets up, the mother gets up to speak, and when she sits down, she has a heart attack and she dies in the church that day, right? Her teenage daughter, not only did she die, the baby died,
Mhm.
right? So her teenage daughter, and we didn't know it at the time because we didn't have much interaction with her,
Mhm.
but she never forgave herself.
Mm.
She thought stress was involved and she caused the stress and she could not deal with that.
Right.
Okay, so she was, I say 16, maybe
Uh-huh.
15, 16,
No, there you go.
right?
Teenager.
She was a teenager. We don't see her after the funeral because she moved up to St. Louis. And
Reverend.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, fast forward now, she's 32 years old. I am in the PX. Her husband is in the PX. She sees me and I see her, and instantaneously we recognize each other. Well, we got to talking about that particular day and how that has haunted her
Right.
because she could not ask her mother for forgiveness. Long story short, we interacted and I said, listen, write everything you would have written, would have said to your mother.
I need to run and get my charger. I'm listening though. I heard the story.
Right. Write everything that you would have said to your mother, and you can mail it to me, and I would go through it line by line. She wrote like 11-page legal page, front and back, because for years she carried this. Now she's trying to be a mother, and she has a barrier that's hindering her. Well, we went through this line by line, and we prayed, and we burnt the thing as a symbolic gift to the Lord, and never interacted since. But I remember her saying, for the first time in years, she finally felt free, released, become a better mother.
Right.
So sometimes you cannot ask for forgiveness directly because the person's past, but you can go through those symbolic gestures. Sit and talk to somebody. Say, "Hey, would you be my mother right now?
Yeah.
And let me talk
Mm.
to you as if you're my mother and get this off of you because you're carrying this, and the person has moved on, whether it's
Yeah.
death or." And I use the word "moves on" intentionally because some people move on and they were out of state, out of country,
Yeah.
and that's another form of a death. But anyway, that's here and there. But there's not. What I don't want us to say because the person died, there's no way we can move on.
But you can. Yeah.
You can.
Yeah, I think that so like if and when that happens, like it's more of like you said, Bishop, like self unforgiveness
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yes.
than
Embrace.
than that person like not forgiving you,
Right.
and then I do think that there's some self work that needs
Mhm.
to take place and that needs to
That's right.
happen because like they're in a better place. They're not here. You know what I mean? They're
Right.
gone. Like they whatever it was, whatever the grievance was, the offense, the issue, they ain't worried about that.
Right.
It's us, and what we have going on. And we really have to get in the word.
The
You
word.
have to, you have to, we have to see ourselves the way God sees us.
Huh. Yeah.
I think that that's important. And it's always, it's work. It's
It,
work.
it is work. There is a saying that I read through. I think it was in The Power of Tension. It says, choosing to hold a grudge is tremendously powerful.
Mhm.
Controlling others in you. Hear this. But forgiving is even more powerful, liberating others in you. Because a lot of times people will want to hold on to the fact that you are, I'm not going to forgive you, I'm not going to do this.
Mhm.
But when you have the power to forgive someone, it's liberating. You can be free. And you want the other person to be free. So we see the time. This is good.
I
We're
think
going to go into,
we need to do a part two because we just scratched the surface.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? I'm trying to think. Is this the second week?
No, this is
This is the first Sunday in
So,
August.
so the second week we can continue to do this. So,
Mhm.
Pastor Dosh, you're going to ask you to come on, and then we ask
Okay.
Don, and we'll do a flyer with both of them on there, so we continue this conversation. But just for tonight, let's have some words of wisdom. What we talked about, as if it's dealing with iron sharpening iron, or unforgiveness, or stretched and not broken. So, who would like to go?
I'm gonna ask Pastor Doshi go first.
All
Yeah,
right.
I'll go first. And my words of wisdom would be acknowledge the harm and apologize.
Amen.
Acknowledge the harm and apologize.
I like that.
Go ahead. I'm gonna say the scripture says God won't put more than you can bear, but He will load you up with issues and challenges so He can show you what He can do.
Yes.
That's
like
deep.
that.
Huh?
I like
Was that
that.
profound?
That was profound.
That's profound.
I give you that. I give you that. Yep. But you have to forgive others if you want to be forgiven. The
Absolutely.
scripture is true. Even how much it does hurt you and dealing with that. And as we talk about being whole and being healthy, there's times where when you cannot process, you feel like you're stuck and you need help. That's the time when you need to talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You're praying and you're maybe talk to your pastor, but then they may say, I need to have you talk to somebody professional.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with being whole in every aspect of our lives.
And let me say this, overseer, and I know we're gonna continue this conversation next week. And that's not gossiping.
Go
That's
ahead.
not telling, like that is getting
Right.
a different perspective. Because
Yes.
some people think, oh, that's gossip, that's this, that it's not.
Oh,
It's
let me share
not.
this real quick. And then when you go into your session, it's not for you to tell everybody what you talked about in your
Right.
session. That's between you and that professional
That's
counselor that's
true.
helping you. So a lot of times you don't go back and tell everybody what you're talking about in your session.
Let me hit this real quick. In the book of Genesis,
Uh-huh.
in the fall, we see forgiveness being displayed,
Mm-hmm.
and then we see it on the cross.
Oh, yes, we
We
do.
see it in Jesus' teaching, and I want to pick up some of that next week.
Yeah, in creation and then in
Oh my
crucifixion.
God, yes.
And as we talked about before we come to the communion table,
Yes.
we have to
Absolutely.
examine
And we like
ourselves.
gifts.
if you have an out, leave
Yeah.
your gift at the altar.
Yeah.
Examine
So,
your heart.
so I want to thank everybody for joining us. Michael Rodriguez joined us this
That's
evening.
Keys.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Keys.
Michael, it's been a while.
And Gabe
You,
was on
that was our
earlier on.
drummer, right?
Yeah,
That, no,
but
no,
Yeah.
Keys. That's Keys.
Okay, okay, okay.
yeah.
And then Gabe was on earlier on.
So thank
Gabe,
you.
Gabe wanted me to sing that song for him so bad.
I don't think so, Bishop. I don't think
Oh,
so.
he wants that song. I can't wait till Tuesday. You hear me?
Oh wow. But I want to say thank y'all for joining us
Mm.
tonight for Words for the Soul. Join us next week. We're gonna have actually a part 2, part 3 of Stretched but Not Broken. And if there's some things that you are designed for us to touch on and you have a question you would like to address, please put it in the chat or email me or reach out to us and we'll make sure we address that. But I want to say thank you so much for joining us on tonight.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
and y'all have a beautiful evening and God bless.
Amen.